Oh, it doesn't matter with this one, dude. It doesn't matter that I'm a Detroit Lions fan. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter that I am. Um, because I've evolved to where I'm not even like I'll always be a Lions fan, but I've evolved past my fanboyism. Gone past all that, and let me just tell you something, okay? I want to review ESPN in general because they're they're crazy. They're making money and they're crazy. They did it like last year, okay? So like last year they had the same crappy attitude they always have. Um, it's not even them. It's also Skip Bayless and Shannon. It's all just a review of their products. Wow, dude, just wow, wow. Um, they're predictable. Okay, even Good Morning Football, they're predictable. Good Morning Football has a bunch of stupid people. If you don't believe me that they don't have a stupid people, they have one of their guys wearing a Chicago Bears shirt talking to Dan Campbell. They have like just a constant dumb thing. But this is where it's different. Okay, this is where it's different. Screw about like the woohoo, the whole angle of I want the Lions to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Woohoo! Who cares about that angle? I don't care about that angle. I really don't. I don't care about that angle, and you shouldn't care about that angle. Um, I don't. I don't care for the angle of them building rivalries out of nothing. I don't care for them showing past footage of a referee who couldn't even like. I didn't. I'm even tired of talking about the referees. You know what I mean? I'm tired of talking about the referees. I'm tired. I'm tired of like what the Carry On Johnson fumble. They never talk about that. Never talk about the ruling of is a player down or not down. You go all the way back. That's a long time ago topic. Oh my gosh, that's like old. That's like 1990s. Is the running back down? Is the receiver down? Is the quarterback down? Just many different teams like Dallas Cowboys, Raiders, whatever, different teams. And It's kind of like, um, okay, sure, ESPN, sure. We want a lot of views on this football game, but it's the opening kickoff game. Of course, it's going to have its views. It's the opening kickoff game to the NFL season. Whoop de doo. That one female, she's just like a pretty. There's two pretty females. They even use a blonde. They use two blondes, and they're just females. They don't know what they're talking about. Their analysts are poor. If you were to make like your little prediction thing, your little prediction pool or whatever, and you're predicting a football game, and you're predicting the outcome of a football game, you're not going to get it from them. They're so they're so stupid, dude. Like that was the past. Aaron Rodgers was the first State Farm commercial guy, okay? And then they had Patrick Mahomes added to the State Farm commercials, right? And uh, Aaron Rodgers, you know where he is. Bye bye. He's a bum, and he's packing, and he's always he's always sucked. He has. He's always sucked. Whether you believe he's not sucked or not, he was playing against different coaches, different defenses. He wasn't playing against good coaching systems. And then when a team actually figured out what he is and who he is, then you just saw it. And you even saw it before this whole Dan Campbell era thing. You saw it that Rodgers could lose to like no name corners. Rodgers could lose to he could lose to like oh my gosh he could lose to a Lions without Cliff Averill. Um, he could lose to the Minnesota Vikings. Even when the Minnesota Vikings had some very questionable things and they didn't have enough things. I think he would lose to the Minnesota Vikings when they didn't even have Kirk Cousins. So, um, but it's the whole gist of the thing. It's the whole gist of they're like, let's talk about Patrick Mahomes. Not like we don't talk about Patrick Mahomes enough. You know what I mean? Talk about Patrick Mahomes. Talk about him again. Talk about it again. Talk about it again. Da, 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 it's really stupid too. I do not think the NFL fan base, and I'm talking about the majority, the different fans, I really don't think they care that Patrick Mahomes, because he's an endorsement to State Farm. I really don't think they even enjoyed the draft when he was at the draft. I don't think, yeah, that's what I saw from them. They didn't enjoy that. But, they even had, like it was such a funny event. They didn't even have like any NFL fan bases really there. They had some, but most of the NFL fan base, the people that actually went to attend the NFL draft event, it was pretty sad, and it was I don't even know where. It was a ton of Jets media too. It was more just like a whole city of event for New York. Okay, so like a whole event for New York. It was stupid, dude. It was like I'm so glad that rats infest New York. I really am. And there's nothing wrong with me saying how rats infest New York City. They should, make better property. Cut that down. At least find something. I don't know. Maybe build a building next to like poisoning all the rats. The mayor says, he says he's going to get rid of the rats. I mean, that's like a common news thing. It's like, okay, get rid of the rats and all that, but like the rats kind of fit the energy because they just constantly talk about these teams, and then they talk about these teams. They really do. Rich Eisen talks about the Jets, okay? But you see, you don't even like look at ESPN. You look at the whole of sports media, okay? Because even when an ESPN person leaves, he goes to another show or does another show, it's still ESPN. ESPN is still around, and they're on different platforms. They're on Fox. They're on. I just don't know how people watch it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know who's watching that. I really don't. I don't know. Like sometimes when you even like tune into it or like you're like looking at it, you're like, what? You're like, what? You're like, huh? They're seriously talking about that again, and they're gonna bring up that same thing, and then they're gonna try. Like, I don't know. Like how? And NFL Network is working with ESPN also, so NFL Network, and this is probably like the gist of it because it's a really smart thing to talk about, but it's like, how are you selling these NFL products, man? How are you? And then they like give like critical reviews. Let me tell you something. They gave a critical review, and I'm just gonna tell you just of one Lions player in the draft that made me kind of like laugh. Like they made a critical review at Jahmyr Gibbs, and I was like, "What are you talking about? All these teams." Any of these teams want Jahmyr Gibbs, dude. What are you going to pick at that? What are you going to get in that draft? You're going to get Jahmyr Gibbs. You're definitely going to get Jahmyr Gibbs. He was ranked in the college rankings, even in the college rankings, which is a thing you would not look if you're like breaking down a football player. You'd look at other highlight tapes, But Jahmyr Gibbs for college, even like, and that's the thing why you don't have fanboyism. You don't have no fanboyism because Jahmyr Gibbs he was a versatile player. He had the looks of Alvin Kamara. He had a unique running style. His legs were unique to his runs. His run patterns were good. He was just matching up with everything. You could even make an argument that he was like Adrian Peterson. You could make an argument there, and there was just like there's many traits to him that were just good. He's a cat. He catches. He does a bunch of outside catches, and it's very hard to get yourself a slot back that's gonna just be catching the ball. Because sometimes they'll just drop the ball. They won't catch it. They have like. He's a traditional running back. He's a bruiser. He has the bruising capabilities, just the capabilities to get past the line, to drain the clock, which is what you want in a running back. You want him to be a bruiser. You want him to do what a running back's supposed to do. You also want him to be a runner that's fast, but can also know he runs smart. He's a very good pick. He's just a very good pick. I really did. I was like, there's no way the Lions are gonna get him. They're like, there are some picks like you see in NFL, and you're just like, I don't think the team's really gonna go at that. But it's always a surpriser when a team like pays attention to just like in general football players that you're scouting. And they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna actually choose this player. I'm not gonna let them go. And how are you gonna get that player? That's the argument, dum dum. Hey, dum dum, how are you gonna go and get? How are you gonna get that player? Are you gonna get that player? You're not gonna get that player because that's just the truth of the matter. 12. It seems that the NFL has also draft has changed. That within the 10 rounds, and when you get to like number 12 and you get to like number like I'd say even you could probably get to like number 14 and you find something good in 14. Like I say the rounds you could probably get probably 1 through 14 and you could get a very good pick. It just changes every year and year. This was a completely different draft. This 2023 draft was different. It was much different from 2000 and all of them. It was like different from all of them. I saw why like many teams were just like making different picks. Like, and you had O-linemen. You had in this draft, you had O-linemen that would normally be like in the second or first round, and they were actually like dropping, and they were good O-linemen. So you didn't even have to. This draft was completely different to where you could get an O-lineman. You didn't have to waste your first or second round pick on an O-lineman. There was just a bunch of different things. It was very new age football stuff, and I was like, are people for real, man? Like I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Out of all those top 10 picks, I would not have picked a quarterback. That's for sure. I'm telling you that. I would not have picked any of those quarterbacks. They were wobbly passers. I would have not picked. I didn't even like feel confident with what's that guy's name? Carter. There was like you could like when you saw it. And you saw him being picked, you got kind of a bad vibe from Carter. You got like he's going to be a work in process. Like Carter was just kind of like it was kind of like, oh man, that guy's going to have to bulk up. He's going to have to weight lift. He's going to have to do a bunch of things. And he just looked comparable to the late round defenders. The late round defenders, he looked like the late round defenders were better than him. And I wouldn't be surprised if they are better than him. There's a difference of having a good scout eye, a bad scout eye. And you're trying to like be like, oh, these young quarterbacks, hopefully they're good. But like a common, like you want to see kind of like a recent thing. Think about like Trevor Lawrence, okay? So you think about Trevor Lawrence and he has his times when he's good, but he just can't get over what he needs to, and he was put into like a first round draft pick, and he can't get over it. He'll have good games, but he's not consistent. He's also a wobbly passer. If you're really drafting a quarterback in the first round, it's got to be a first round quarterback. It has to be a quarterback that can throw. It has to be a quarterback like basically a strong arm. It has to be a fast quarterback. It has to have a lot of things going for it. Russell Wilson was kind of like the blueprint of that. It was like a blueprint. Oh my gosh, it was such a common little blueprint of like, you don't have to like. And drafting a quarterback at the first round has always been, because I mean you've had Ryan Leaf, you've had And even like when you got like a good quarterback from like the first round, did it really translate to anything? Philip Rivers' career, you could argue, was wasted. You could argue Jay Cutler's career was wasted. But Jay Cutler he had his own problems he was dealing with. I think they gave Jay Cutler too much money. But Philip Rivers, he ended up getting comfortable too. He didn't he didn't do what he was supposed to do, and he got comfy. But yeah, like Drew Brees came from Purdue. He came from Purdue. It's really stupid sports talk. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's really dumb sports talk. It's not good sports talk at all. And if they're really gonna have like a moment, you're gonna be watching sports talk and enjoying it. They're gonna have to bring out Green. And Green's he's like the head of ESPN. He's like the head of ESPN. So they have to have like a whole staff for them just to get like a decent conversation going. And I even noticed Rich Eisen. I don't like Rich Eisen. I've never really liked Rich Eisen. But like he's just going back to what they are. Like Rich Eisen's going back to what they all are. Like it's like, okay, here he goes to do his little Fox picks. But like the difference is supposed to be when you watch the Rich Eisen show or the Dan Patrick, I can't even remember his name. When you're supposed to watch these shows, you're supposed to get something different that makes you go, oh, well, that's interesting. That's pretty cool. I like that. You have really no clear on teams. All the teams you've had clear about them talking about is the New York Jets. You had them talking about Chargers. You had them talking about just a bunch of Eagles. Eagles is just an easy topic for them to talk about. You have Cowboys. You haven't had them talking about any other teams. You haven't had them like I really like they'll put in Dolphins news. They'll put in Dolphins news, but that's just because of Tua. They're not really putting in news on Dolphins, on the Miami Dolphins. They're not putting. They're trash, dude. They're trash. I don't even know what's the boiling point either. It's like, hello, it's Lions versus Kansas City Chiefs. Hello, it's a week 1 matchup. Hello, there's not anything you need to invest into because, and this is just showing you what a Lions fan kind of thing is like. A Lions fan would just want us to get into the playoffs and do good in the playoffs. We really don't care about a week 1 game. We don't care about a week 1 game. We just care about like the overall. Are you actually going to do something? Are you going to finally win the NFC North? That's the things a Lions fan would care about. A Lions fan's not probably like sitting there like, okay, whatever, And then the big light game. Oh my gosh, dude. That's what I'm saying. Like it's hard to be a fan of your sports team because they're like the big lights game. They're like, oh, this is the big lights game, That also makes you kind of like a betting person because you're just like, why are they saying it's a big light game? What's the point of that? You're kind of like, I don't know which one. If I were to give you a pick, I would like a safe pick. Sometimes I'm right on these picks, sometimes I'm not. But most of the times I kind of like learn depending what it is. I would pick for this game. I'd pick the Lions, and the reason I picked the Lions is they finally got in a break. They finally found an identity. They're too much of a shocker in week 1. They're too much of a shocker for week 1. So they're going to be very surprising. Kansas City, just keeping an old secondary. There's a drive to repair, everything on the Kansas City's defense. But they're way too much of a different team. now they've actually got stuff, and they've changed their coordinators even again this year. So they've changed their coordinators. That they're making an even better coaching staff. Andy Reid's very smart. He's like I don't know, they're a very smart organization, but when you're facing something different, it's really hard to read into something different, especially a team that's improving all their problems. I don't know. Like it's funny for the pick. Isn't that a funny pick? Because the Western Michigan University receiver for Kansas City was a surprise. And yes, Kansas City has very surprising players, but then once again, Kansas City, do they in the grand scheme probably care about week one game? Probably not. You'd be surprised. Both these teams probably don't really care that much about the week one game. I mean, they have a lot of new players. They have new personnels. They have new ways to run the ball. And if I was the Chiefs, I'd care more about my division because the Raiders made a ton of changes. The Broncos made they made some interesting changes. Chargers, definitely that quarterback has a lot of pressure on him. There's a lot of pressure on him because he wants to keep his money. So there is a ton of pressure on him, and he's trying to live up to what that is. And the Chargers were meh, but this year, and they were able to do good against the Kansas City Chiefs, even being at meh. So the Chargers could be really good this year because they could take all this. Last year, man, their defense was terrible. It was just a tackled defense with no takeaways. So the Chargers have more of a drive, than Kansas City Chiefs, and they have a clear road. Just take out the Kansas City Chiefs, win the division. That's really all a Lions fan wants is to win the division. But I already got this pick down. I definitely picked the Lions because they're taking out players that they need to take out. DeAndre Swift, taking him out, taking out Jeff Okudah. They're actually taking out people. Like they're not having a bunch of people that you keep because you're just being conservative or you're being you're being safe. They're actually bringing in players. They're bringing in dogs. They're bringing in alpha stuff. And it's been so hard being a Lions fan because every year you almost have the idea that they're gonna get it together or something. They just because they're very competitive. But this time I have an actual thought. A thought process of it's going to go good because the Lions' O-line's going to be up to shape. And that was the thing. Jonah Jackson didn't even really play last year. And that's kind of the heart of the NFL. If you have a good O-line, the things you can do, man. The Buffalo Bills are able to do so many things with their good O-line, which is why I'm always critical on Josh Allen. It's do you really see Josh Allen? Or are you just seeing an actual offensive line that can help him out and then help him extend the play, The good years of Aaron Rodgers, he had a very good offensive line. The good years of even Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning's a very good quarterback, but he had a very good O-line. Tom Brady, very good O-line. Just if you have a very good O-line that's built around Ben Roethlisberger had a good offensive line. And now it seems because the pressure's on, the Lions have to have a good offensive line now. There's no point at this point. At this point, they have to because they have Taylor Decker. You don't know how many years you have on Taylor Decker. It's kind of it's just a huge mismatch, especially if you have that good of an offensive line. Kansas City Chiefs offensive line is not good. It's good enough, but it's not good. Defensive line, and this is the brutal part. This is the brutal key matchups you should really pay attention to. So the Lions have had a constant problem at defensive line. Okay, so their defensive line has been not good, not good, not good, not good. Maybe like get some highlights. Their defensive line gets some highlights, and they crumble. They crumble. They get some highlights in a game where it's like, oh, of course you got highlights in that. But now their defensive line with Aiden Hutchinson, with Houston, now it's finally going to be a defensive line versus not being a defensive line. It has to be, because if not, bye-bye, fire. Fire that defensive coordinator, fire this, fire that. So with time and money, you have to build out a defensive line, especially if it's been, 4 to 5 years. So 4 to 5 years of a defensive line, you're going to have to show up with that defensive line. Because if you don't, it's it's not good on the coaching staff, pretty bad. Even like the Chiefs, you could expect them to come into this game with a pretty good defensive scheme too, because the Chiefs defense hasn't really been pulling through. They've been having a lot of old guys, but they just keep too many old guys. They really don't. They spend monies in different ways and different players. Because they had that linebacker that they got, and he was a good linebacker, but they got him from like a he's basically like a 1 year, 2 year linebacker. But so there's going to be so many things that are better. Like with both teams are going to have better things. But this year the Lions are just in a tough predicament because they have no option. They don't have an option to be like, okay, maybe next year we can do it. They don't have that anymore. That's not their thing. If that was their thing, you definitely have DeAndre Swift, and then you have another stupid Pizza Hut advertisement of them eating pizza and chocolate chip cookie dough, chocolate chip Hershey's pies or whatever. It's crazy too. I really liked the trade for Jeff Okudah. That was a good one, trading away Jeff Okudah, because there was just times where it's like, okay, maybe Jeff Okudah could get it together, but he just didn't get it together. And he didn't want to get it together, and the late round corners that the Lions found were way better, more sufficient, tougher. And then he just wasn't in the flow of it. So now it's like, bye-bye, actually getting stuff off your team. And sometimes your team doesn't really need to depend on certain key things. Sometimes you can just shift up your keys, and you can get a player that's maybe not what you're trying to project, but then they surprise you because they have just as much motivation, if not more motivation, than Jeff Okudah. But yeah, the analysts they don't break down anything. They have a piece of crap guy tried to talk with Dan Campbell. I don't even have to say his name, but you know who I'm talking about. He always tries to talk to Dan Campbell. These people are funny, man. It's kind of cool that Dan Campbell's talking to them too, because Dan Campbell being just like a former tight end. It's a really funny conversation. And Dan Campbell he's just a very good coach to have. A very good coach, tough, smart, has a lot of things he had to build around, especially because, like I said, he used to work with the Miami Dolphins. And the Miami Dolphins, like I'm telling you, the Miami Dolphins really aren't talked about that much. So Dan Campbell has a drive. He always has a constant drive around him. But yeah, that's the whole thing behind this pick. Patrick Mahomes, oh my gosh, talk about what a gift to play against Darius Slay. You know what I'm saying? Darius Slay eating mac and cheese. I don't know. It really helps when you're in a football game and you're given a gift. If you're playing against a secondary and you have gifts. It's just like, oh, what a good day for you, you know? Patrick Mahomes was not even like really top draft. He wasn't really top drafted. He wasn't like not up to those. So yeah, though.